Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today's video I want to do a quick sort of in-depth guide on light tanks. I personally love building light tanks. It's one of my favorite things to do in multiplayer games and in single player games. I'll kind of explain why as the video goes on, but I thought today it'd be just quite nice to do a video talking about how I build my light tanks and how I sort of set them up in my divisions and what they're ultimately for. So we'll quickly go ahead here and research all so I can show you how to build light tanks. We've got the modules. So here we go. So for Italy, you actually get quite a lot of, since the new DLC came out, you get quite a lot of pre-made tanks for you, which is quite nice. So as you progress through the tech tree, you'll get all these pre-made tanks. But we'll start off with... where is it? The basic light tank. Here we go. So this is what you'll start with. The L335, a notoriously bad tank. I don't think you could honestly make this tank much worse. I would struggle to do so. But of course the single upside is that they are extremely cheap to make. However, because you are Italy and as you progress through the game, you will eventually gain the industrial capacity to build tanks that are a bit more production costly, and so we'll sort of talk about what I like to do with the L335 in the early game. I would say that because obviously how the research works, you won't get a lot of the the improved small cannon until a bit later on. So the first thing I would do is, the second you get some experience from Ethiopia, I'd whack the automatic cannon on it, put a one-man turret on it, and then honestly, I'm just trying to see here. You have a choice. Okay, you can either increase the reliability by putting, here it is, wet ammunition storage, and then this is your kind of basic tank right here. If you want to increase the armor a little bit, you can do, but I honestly wouldn't mess around with this too much. It's just a slightly more expensive version of the tank, but of course you get a lot more soft attack and a lot more breakthrough, and your reliability is a bit better. So when I start off playing as a country like Italy, this is kind of the tank I would personally make. It's cheap, you can pump a lot out to kind of fill a couple of divisions, and at least you have, you know, a very basic light tank division as opposed to nothing at all. And I'd say for nations such as, you know, sort of more powerful miners, maybe countries like Turkey, Romania, Poland, Czechoslovakia, this is the sort of tank I would make early game. But let's talk about the kind of best of the best, right? So the absolute, you know, best light tank that I would want to make. Let's go to, I have to find it now. Here we go. Advanced light tank chassis. Here we go. So what is the best way to make a light tank, the best tank design? So we'll start off with suspension. I personally always go for interleaved road wheels because you get extra breakthrough. So we'll start with that. Armor, obviously put to cast armor. Then for main gun, you have a choice, and I'd recommend two. Either I would do the improved small cannon, which is basically the best of both worlds. It gives you decent soft attack, decent hard attack, and again, decent piercing. But in my opinion, light tanks should not be fighting other tanks, right? You should kind of avoid light tanks attacking, especially mediums and heavies. If you're going up against someone like Germany, these light tanks just won't do. So what I personally like to do is actually use the improved automatic cannon and sacrifice that hard attack for soft attack, because my reason for this is that I'm exclusively trying to use light tanks against other infantry. So I'm trying to maximize my sort of soft attack. Now, of course, you could put the close support gun on, which gives you even more soft attack at the expense of even more hard attack. I just think the improved automatic cannon does give you the ability to sort of take on slightly other light tanks in very rare instances. Not to mention that the production cost for the automatic cannon is 2, whereas the close support gun is 4. and obviously it gives it the artillery role, but like that's, you know, I think overall the improved automatic cannon is just a better choice in my opinion. 3-man turret for the extra breakthrough, of course, then radio for defense and breakthrough, and then you have sort of a couple of choices. Actually, before we do anything, I'll do engine to level 10, and basically what you want to do is for your max speed you want it to be at least 12 kilometers an hour. The reason for this is the top speed of trucks is 12 miles an hour, so you want to make sure that your tanks can also go 12 miles an hour so they can keep up with your motorized units, and that you're not putting these tanks into motorized units and reducing their speed, because arguably you want to be using these tanks for, you know, breakthroughs, encirclements, so you want to keep them fast. You want to keep them very quick to sort of, you know, fill in the gaps, punch holes and encircle divisions, which is why that 12 kilometers an hour mark is so important to keep for a light tank, because arguably that's its greatest advantage, its speed. Reliability, of course, you want to make sure is over 100, which it is, and then I would just go about improving the soft attack and breakthrough. So we'll put the heavy machine gun on, and then maybe something like the stabilizer, and then you could either put on an additional machine gun or something like where is it, the auto loader a bit later on, gives you more breakthrough. So you're almost at 100 breakthrough with the autoloader equipped. Again, it's up to you. I'm not honestly sure what is better numbers wise. I've not done any testing on whether it's better to have more breakthrough or more soft attack. So if you do want to test it out yourself, go ahead, but I'm not too keen on min-maxing. A few notable modules to keep in mind would be either the dozer blade, if for some reason you want to make really cheap defensive tanks. Personally, not my cup of tea, but if you wanted to, like, you know, make a very cheap light tank that just had no soft attack or hard attack, but just had, you know, ridiculous armor stats, and obviously you want to add some entrenchment on, by all means do it. The other one that I don't see a lot of people talking about is the fuel drum, and this is one I've been debating on whether it's actually really good or just crap. Basically what the fuel drum does is it increases the fuel capacity of your tank and therefore your division. The reason this is important is because as you punch holes through enemy defences, if you're not pushing on a broad front, the supply won't reach your tanks, and the further in they push into enemy territory, the worse supply is going to get. And essentially what the fuel drum allows you to do is push just that little bit further, those extra couple of tiles, and then obviously that helps you make slightly bigger encirclements, and maybe it helps you stretch over a certain border length and, you know, cut off an army. So honestly, I mean, I think it depends on your scenario for the fuel drum. For instance, if you're, let's say you're Turkey, right, and you want to have some light tanks here and you want to punch across to the Caspian Sea, right? If you're not going to reach it, you know, if your tanks haven't got enough fuel, they get to here and they sort of run out of fuel and they have no supply, well then, you know, the enemy player's just going to have the opportunity to, you know, evacuate this entire area and not have, you know, God knows how many divisions they would have encircled. But if you had the fuel drums, maybe you could push on that a little bit further and cut them off at the Caspian Sea. So it's a very niche module, but one I would just consider for your purposes as to whether it's actually, you know, going to be necessary or not. But anyway, we'll go back to designing that tank real quick. Here we go: 3-man turret, radio, heavy machine gun, stabilizer, and then we'll put an additional machine gun on, right? Increase to engine 10, and there we go. This is pretty much how I'd make the sort of quote-unquote best light tank. And the production cost actually isn't that bad. 80.6 is not bad at all, especially if you're a major or a more powerful miner and you've got the industry to produce these tanks. You can field a decent number of divisions relatively quickly and equip them quite well. So yeah, that is exactly how I build the sort of, like I said, quote-unquote best light tank. And then of course the division template, Now, for those of you who play Italy, you will all be familiar with this template here, which is a joke. Absolute trash. So we will change that, and what I typically like to do is just a basic 20 width. I know that the meta has changed around combat width, but for all intents and purposes, it just, in my head, makes it, it's just an easy sort of template. I don't have to think about it too much. But I would basically just do something like this. 4 tanks and 6 motorized, so you have 420 light tanks, 210 trucks, and yeah, it's not too bad. Soft attack is looking pretty good. Speed is very good, 13.2 kilometers an hour. And then of course for support companies, there's a few options. Engineer is a good one, not only because it grants you certain movement bonuses. As you can see, the movement bonus for rivers plus 25%, for forest it's plus 5%, and for marsh it's plus 20%. So for a division that you're trying to keep fairly fast, and also increases attack and defense in certain states, you can use forts and rivers and amphibious, engineer company is a pretty solid recommendation on my part. I'd also say support artillery just to increase the soft attack, and later on in the game I'd also recommend support rocket artillery, because remember, this is the division that is going to be focusing solely on taking out other infantry. Hence, you're going to want that soft attack to be as high as possible, as well as have very high breakthrough. Then, of course, it's up to you really what you want to put in this division. There's a couple of recommendations. You could put in field hospitals if you're a smaller country who can't necessarily afford the losses in a huge war. Motorized recon companies are also a good idea for the movement bonus. You could have light armored recon, as they give the better bonuses from what I'm aware of, and of course you can also upgrade light armored recon. So if you had the light armored recon, but then you went about maxing out the actual armored cars, this could be pretty decent. And then the only other one I'd really recommend might be support anti-air or anti-tank. Anti-tank would just help you deal with other tanks, but like I said, you're going to want to avoid attacking other, especially medium and heavy tanks at all costs. So I'd add in the anti-air, especially if the enemy has air superiority, just to kind of help you out with taking out enemy aircraft and reducing the effect of the enemy having air superiority. So yeah, I'd do something like this probably. You have a very fast division with very good soft attack, very good breakthrough, very good defense as well, actually. And yeah, obviously it's 20 width. You can, if you really want to be, very specialized about your division, you can cater it to the combat width you're going to expect to be fighting in, make the necessary changes. You could also, if you wanted to, one thing I would recommend is if you wanted to look into the possibility of either having motorized artillery or truck-drawn rocket artillery, as this will increase your soft attack by, a lot. Look at that. We go from 372 to 437. So yeah, if you really wanted to, you could put 2 in like this maybe, into a 20 width, but I think it makes your HP a bit low. But of course, play around with it and see what works for you. And even if you can, afford to produce some field, the rocket artillery in the first place later on in the game. But yeah, that is about it. Those are the division templates and the tank design that I use for my light tanks. Don't forget that you also have your tank designer, which of course will give you added benefits, as you see here, plus 5% reliability. So check with your country what tank designers you have available and what kind of buffs they give you. And then of course the last thing to remember is your doctrines. Of course, if you're going for a pure, you want to really focus and harp on these tanks, mobile warfare doctrine is a no-brainer. In most other cases, I'd recommend superior firepower just for the soft attack, and also the fact that here it increases the soft attack of your support companies, being your support artillery and support rocket artillery. But yeah, that is basically it. I hope that's been helpful. Yeah, these tanks are basically designed to do one thing, which is be extremely fast and encircle divisions, you know, punching holes through other infantry. Not really designed to take on other medium or heavy tanks. But yeah, if you guys have any suggestions on what I should change, maybe about my division template or the tank designer, you know, you want to kind of give your opinion on modules I should change, or you know, give me ideas on what kind of tanks you design, then of course, you know, leave your comments down below. I'll happily read through them. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed that video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Take care.